So really quickly, let's talk about the inline styles, right? If you remember, in the lab, we've introduced inline styles this way. Where was it? Yeah, we've just introduced inline CSS. That was typically something like this. I'm not sure you can see this. I'm just going to maximize it. So an inline CSS is done via an attribute or a property called style, and this is a common attribute that can be hooked up to any tag, right? So this is the style, and it has an equal sign, and like any attribute or property, you're gonna have to have a value for that attribute, and this is the value. The value is what we call a CSS rule, right? So here I have two CSS rules. The first rule is color, and this is something that the key value pair, these CSS rules are key value pairs, meaning that this is the key and this is the value. And most of them are not something that you come up with, like the keys are predefined. The values, you can choose one of the predefined values as well. So we do not really create anything here. These have been already there and we just use them. All of the key and value pairs of this CSS rules or these CSS rules are predefined, right? So keep this in mind. So the first CSS rule is color, and you can put a colon to put the value of that color afterwards, right? So the value here is red, and we separate the CSS rules between each other with a semicolon, right? You do not have to have white space. I just included this for good readability, all right? The same thing here. You do not have a white space between the colon, after or before the colon. That's just for readability. Okay? So another CSS rule want to be added, that's fine. Just add a semicolon in between. And this second CSS rule is called background color, which controls, as it seems, the background color. And I set this to blue. All right. And that's it. This is it. All right. So let's just do this really quickly. And let's have our website. And I want to target this web development roadmap, right? So if we go back to the list, notice that this was the title of the list, Web Development Roadmap. All right, so I can go to the OL. Apologies for this. Okay, so I can go to the OL and type style. All right, note that this is an attribute or a property, and note that this can be hooked up to any tag. That's just a common attribute. And give it a equal sign with the value. The values here are the CSS rules. So let's just pick a color, just the one that we've seen, and red. Notice that something is really annoying is happening, is that whenever we give the red color as a CSS rule for the attribute style to the ordered list, it gives that color to the whole ordered list, to the title, to the link, to the lists inside. And that's something that you do not want to have, right? You want to target a specific thing. In this case, let's say that I want to target the title. So that doesn't really help at all, right? In a case like this, we can, in order to wrap our things, notice that this text is just floating, right? It's just floating there. So it's as if you're doing something like that. So all of these are considered an order list. That's why whenever you give a style to an order list with a red color or whatever CSS rule, it's going to apply to anything inside that order list. What happens if I want to only target this? Well, remember, we introduced an inline level element called spans, and span actually is used for targeting small pieces of text, and this is a small piece of text, right? So you can just say that this is going to be wrapped between a span like that, and let's just close the span, right? And now we can target this span to have the specific style of color red. So I'm just going to take this away and give it to my span right there. And notice that I'm putting the style inside the opening tag. See, all of this is happening inside our opening tag. You need to have a white space, by the way, okay, between the tag and the attribute. I've mentioned this before. And notice that this is the opening tag bracket, and this is the enclosing of the opening tag. So all of these are happening inside the opening tag. Okay, if I hit Control S, now you're going to see that our span has taken the color successfully. All right, so engineer, what do we do if we want to target the web design? I want to target the second or front end JavaScript. I want to target this list point. to be colored in red. Do we do something like, do we include a span in front of our inside our list? Like, do I include this front.js inside a span as well? Well, in this case, you do not have to do that, because already this text is inside a list, so you can just target the list, right? So you can give that list a style of color. Let's just change it now and make it something like colon blue, or something royal blue. I like this color, royal blue. Okay, so now this list is giving you the color that you want to its content. The content of this list is taking that style, right? We didn't need spans here because we wanted to color all of the text. Okay, so what happens if I want to color a specific part of the list? Maybe I want to color only databases, right? In a case like this, you cannot go and do the same trick to that third list. I cannot go to the third list and do something like that, right? Let's say that this is going to be Dodger blue. Okay, if you did this, the whole list is going to take the color. If you want only databases, then you know the drill now. You can give that style to a span. So we are going to wrap up our databases word inside a span like that, and that span will take the this style and is going to take a Dodger blue color. Let's just make it something like pink, like this. Okay, so this is integrating inline CSS like that. Okay, one last thing, let's just go to the paragraph here, and let's say that this great paragraph should take some color. So you guessed it, let's go to the paragraph. This is the first paragraph, this is the first one. So I want the great part to have a color, so I'm just going to go to span like that, right, and give it a style of color. And now I want to use the color picker, the one that you have downloaded, right? So I'm just going to open up Karnak. Okay, so I can hit on Control-Alt-C, and our color picker is going to be popping up. If you didn't install this, it will not appear, so check the environment setup before you do this point. Okay, so you can pick any color from there, and notice that these are RGB, red, green, blue, some values that can that actually formulates the color for you. So I can just pick any color that I like. Let's say something like that, and you can, if you control the transparency, you're gonna find that there is a fourth parameter that appears, which is basically the opacity. Okay, so let's just have it like this, and I think that's way too light, so I'm just going to make it like that. All right, so that's the color RGB, or RGBA for the transparency or the opacity. Okay, and basically I wanted to highlight only the great part, so I'm just going to take this away, put it outside of the span, and here we go. Okay, so what happens if you want to give more stuff? Let's say that I want to give that great another thing. Maybe I want to give it something like a background color. That's fine, just add a semicolon, and let's say that we are going to have a background color of, for example, let's pick our color from there, and let's say it's going to be something that is heavily gray, something like that. So there's another background color, right? Maybe you want to change the font size. All right, that's fine. Let's give a font size to the whole paragraph now. So let's go to the paragraph. Okay, let's just exit this one. So the paragraphs should take an inline of style, and let's say font family or font size, and give it something like 20 pixels. That's fairly big. You're gonna see that it got bigger, right? And we can add a font family, font hyphen family, okay, and add it something like sans serif, for example, or Arial or whatever. So the whole paragraph, which includes the span inside of it, that includes the word great, has inherited the sans serif font family. Okay, a couple of tags that I want to introduce here. Let's say that this new line part should take, and this is purely HTML, right, should take something like an underline, or should take something like an italic or a bold, right? So we can wrap this new line with a B, and this is an HTML tag, that's not CSS, that corresponds to bold. What if you want to add an underline as well? We can nest another level inside that B with an I, which stands for italic, and the order here doesn't really matter, as long as the one that you have opened first is being closed last, right? That's the order that you need to think. Do we need to have like the I first and then inside the B's? That doesn't really matter. What matters is that what has been opened first should be closed last. Okay, so now notice how it got to be italic. We can add another one, and let's call it U, which is underline. Okay, so here you go. One last thing, really that's really the last thing here. We can add something called price, right? And let's say that this is 100 LE. Okay, okay, that's enough. So this is the paragraph here, and I want to do some kind of discount. Like I want to say that I don't like this anymore, and I just want to tell the people that we have a discount or a specific percentage, right? So we can wrap this 180 between something called and type del, as for stands for delete, right? And you can see that it has a line through like that, meaning that that's maybe the old price, and the new price is something like I don't know, 100 and LE. So that's the new price. Okay, and we can have the new price wrapped inside another kind of a background color CSS equivalent that is called mark. So this highlights the word like that, but it always highlights with a background color of yellow. You don't need to use mark, as you know now that there is something called background color that you can use. And that's the point of knowing CSS. Once you get familiar with CSS rules, you will discard most of the things that you knew about HTML. Only the basic and the most important tags are going to be relevant to you. Like stuff like del and mark and U and bold, all of these are going to be neglected once we get to know CSS really good, because all of these can be done from CSS rules, right? But I just wanted to introduce these things to you so you can be familiar with what we have, and these are mostly all of the tags that you're gonna interact with. In the next lab, we're gonna talk about forms and tables, and we are going to dive a little bit deeper in inline, internal, and external CSS.